Alright, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started now. Once again, hopefully people start filtering in. But for those of you joining in the VOD or on YouTube, welcome to the Familiar Evils Twitch and YouTube and hopefully future podcast. Today we are reviewing the new gift set, which is absolutely gorgeous. Clearly, you can take a look at it here. Yeah, it's gonna primarily be for Mordenkainen's, obviously. Most of you already know everything there is to need to know about, like Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and the Centaur's Guide to Everything. But I'll show what they look like in the back, the front, the whole deal. So, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. As you can see, the box is gorgeous. I love the art. Some people are complaining about the simplicity of it, but I don't know. I think it's an interesting switch up. And I think this might be a theme that they're going with in the future books as well, because I saw some interesting art for what looks like Minsk and Boo, or I think it's just Boo, because Boo is the quote-unquote space hamster. And it's a very similar fashion as like this circular design, what looks like it's going to be set on a white backdrop. So I think a lot of the new alternate covers for what people are probably going to be dubbing something like 5.5. I think 5.5 is technically supposed to be in 2024, or that's supposed to be 6E. I don't know. I don't know what the timeline is on that. It's kind of confusing, and I think that the communication behind it is a little weird. Gonna get the binding here, which once again simplistic but elegant. This is all raised, by the way. This is all embossed on there. And then if we flip it over here, take a quick look at the bindings for these, which are once again everything on here is embossed. We've got a nice little, DM screen. And if we switch to the back, got a picture here of what looks like, I think that is actually, you could mistake that for an Elder Brain, but I think it might just be an Intellect Devourer. Although they do have like big monsters here, so I do think that's an Elder Brain in the back. That's Zuktomi, however you pronounce her name. She's one of the Lords of the Abyss, and so is Orcas, which most everybody knows who Orcas is, and then we've got Centaur. So that's the front, back, and sides, the bindings. So let's go ahead and just pull these out and set this to the side for now. Yeah, we'll start from here. We'll start with the let's get that nice front and center. There we go. So we've got Orcas here. Once again, the same kind of art. This is a beautiful DM screen, so I'll go ahead and open it up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get all of it. I think I'll kind of show it in bits here. There you go. Still getting used to this whole thing. You can see the art here on that side. Bring it across, and I'll show it in the main camera as well. Its full glory, but this is a close-up, and it's very smooth. Looks very nice, very professionally done. Oh yeah, that's an Elder Brain. You can see it in this further art here, but here it all is in its glorious glory of all. I do look forward to doing a future in-person game and being able to use this for many years to come. And so, let's go ahead and, before we get to Monsters of the Multiverse, which is gorgeous, we'll get the first look at the cover here. I love keyrins. Keyrins are cool. I like anything with a kind of holy god vibe, despite the fact that I'm as atheist as atheists can get. I don't know. I think the aesthetic is really cool, and I appreciate it. But we'll take a quick look at the other two. Got Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which For any of you curious, I'm pretty certain it's all exactly the same. I looked through it a bit. Nothing about this has changed. There's no added content to these books. But if you have a person who is new to the game, which I see why you would get the alternate cover for somebody who's new to the game, but still, maybe you really like your DM and they just really need this stuff and they're not crazy like me where you get every single book that comes out, or you have a player who's, you know, not like that. This is already a pretty good gift set because it comes with everything you really need for character creation. That's really the big thing about this. But let's go to the back here. Take a look at some of the cool little text. My mother once said, "Natasha, my pumpkin, do you want to be a witch or a queen?" I answered, "Both, mother," and it's Tasha. I like the little excerpts back here. I think it's kind of cool. So there's that. Move that on over. Once again, these all they clearly went all out with the just how well made these are. They're very smooth, very shiny. It's absolutely gorgeous, especially because it's kind of that lifted embossed look to it. Once again, same Xanathar's Guide as we all come to love and know. Got, you know, our monk builds and all that good stuff. But go to the back, take a look at the other side. I don't understand the attraction of the gods. Why would anybody worship anything other than me? Xanathar. There is a part of me that is sad that in my homebrew world, I did not just straight up rip off Xanathar, because I am doing a version of Dragon Heist in my Thursday game, and yeah, there is no Xanathar in my world. They are replaced by somebody else, and no, they are not a beholder. But let's get past that and move on to the main attraction here, which is the main point of this video, which is Mordenkainen presents Monsters of the Multiverse. Once again, you see that gorgeous keyrin on the front. We'll flip over to the back real quick and take a look at that before we crack this open. The multiverse shines with countless wonders, yet I have seen so many of them that I am rarely awed. Not so with the keyrin. They fill me with awe every time. Mordenkainen. So, let's get this set up here to where we can see the full book. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Oh, it's not actually quite. So we got our content table here, which I wish I could do more focusing on my computer than on my phone. You can kind of get what's going on here. You see, up to page 36 is the Fantastic Races. The rest of this book is all monsters, which would kind of be understood as to why they call it Monsters of the Multiverse. But we'll do a yep, see it continues going. It has even some of the greater enemies in there. So you do have like Zariel, Zukotomi, Yinagu, the whole gang. Although I do kind of wish they had some more celestial beings. I get that like that's not really a thing you do in this game, considering you're so rarely to encounter them, primarily because like I guess if you're gonna run an evil game, which is like one of the rarest types of games to run. Let's see. This is gonna take a moment and pull this down, see if I can get a better vantage point on our get a closer look. So we're going to go to Fantastical Races. You can see here, ranging from Aarakocra all the way to Yuan-ti. Ability score increases. I think everybody understood this at this point. are just, you choose them. You get 3 of them. You can either do 2 in one or 1 in 3 different ones. Basically, your combination. You just can't do 3 points in one. It's the only caveat to that. Languages your characters speak, read, and write common. One other language that your DM agrees is appropriate with the character, the player handbook. So this is creating your own character. If there is absolutely nothing you want to pull from your race, you basically just create whatever you want. They're going more and more into this sandbox style, which is fine. It does. There's arguments for either way. Ultimately, the way I see D&D, which is why I always kind of laugh about how people get upset in either direction, is that ultimately D&D is whatever you make it anyways. So why do you care what WotC says when you can run your game however you wish? That is the power and the wonder of this game. But starting off with Eric Kokra, since I'm going to be spending I'm not going to be spending a whole lot of time on the monsters. I'll really try to go to a bit more depth. What's going on here with the playable races? So your size is medium, 30 feet. You still have flight. You can't use your flying speed, though, if you're wearing medium or heavy armor, which is actually a nice caveat. Sorry. You got your talons here. 1d6 plus strength modifier. I'm wondering, like, I guess I feel like you get disarmed and stuff. That's pretty cool. I've never really theory crafted an Aarakocra. Would be interesting to do, though. Wind Caller. Starting at 3rd level, you can cast the Gust of Wind spell with this trait without requiring material components. Once you cast a spell with this trait, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Obviously, I think they've done this with all of them, that you can use your spell slots to cast it as well. So you basically gain an extra spell, which is nice. I don't really mind powering up the players. In general, I think having powerful players is not really a bad thing. Aasimar, as far as I remember, because I got some of the updates pretty early when one of the D&D content creators had gotten a hold of information early. So there's some interesting things that have changed with the Aasimar. They don't have the same stuff that they had in Volo's Guide to Monsters in here. I can already tell where it talks about like your angelic guide. It seems they got rid of that, which kind of makes sense because to be quite honest, angelic guides are one of those things where like your DM has to take the time. It can be a good DM gift to have that if you are the kind of person who likes to like have those dreams and those subtle thoughts that are put in, and you really go into that minutia. So I guess part of me, like, I don't know if they put it in here or not, and I'm not getting very good resolution here, so don't mind for just a moment as everything comes flying off. If I can get a better, let's put this right here. I don't know if this will help at all. Get a look at my dice there, my gorgeous dice. It's yeah, you can see it a bit better now. You can kind of read it better. It's just Is it? I was afraid it might not be updating. Sorry, technical difficulties. I'll have to edit that out. Uh-oh. Hopefully that fixes it. Yoink, yoink, yoink. Is it going to update? Alright. I'm going to leave it like that for now and see where that finishes. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. This is having a really hard time today. We might be having some serious technical difficulties here. I'm going to hit stop. I'm going to redo this real quick. I don't know what's going on. Sorry, stream. I'm having some issues. Alright. Start. That should fix it, and then I'll just go ahead and pull that back up. There we go. So I'll just leave that on like that. But you can read it now, which is what really matters. I'd really rather you all be able to see that in lieu of a little bit of glitchiness. Oh, it's slowing down again, which is frustrating. So if this continues to go, I'll try and move it to another day. But got Asmar traits here, blah, blah, blah. Go through all the main stuff. Celestial resistance, you still have necrotic and radiant resistance. You still have your dark vision. Healing hands is actually D4 is equal to your proficiency bonus now, which is actually kind of is really nice. So as an action, you can touch a creature and roll a number of d4s equal to your proficiency bonus. The creature regains a number of hit points equal to the total rolled. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. Yeah, that's really good. It's exciting, actually, because Asmar my favorite. I still have Lightbearer, but now it's no longer that you pick a subrace for Asmar. You just pick Asmar, and then you pick your Celestial Revelation, which is literally the same thing as being a Protector, a Scourge, or Edgelord. Sorry, for some reason, Fallen Asmar, same thing. So Necrotic Shroud. Let's see if they did anything different. It still lasts for everything. Still lasts for 1 minute. You can't use it again until you finish a long rest. 10 feet of you. DC 8 plus proficiency plus bonus plus charisma mod. Frighten, so you still have the frighten on it. You deal damage. I believe the extra damage is still the same, though I've never played a Fallen Asmar. Radiant consumption seems to be the same until the transformation ends. You can deal an extra radiant damage to one target with. You'll deal damage to the attack or spell. Extra damage equals your proficiency bonus. I think that used to be your level. So that is what has changed about those, and that's definitely a debuff once you start getting higher level. Yes, they've really balanced down the damage increase on things like Necrotic Shroud and Radiant Consumption. I think they actually increased Radiant Soul's healing, though, if I remember correctly, because I believe Radiant Soul only increased your healing by 2, and actually I can prove that right or wrong in about 30 seconds. Where is it? Where is it? Bo's got the monsters. Oh. Get back where you belong. Let's see. Let's take a quick look. Monster lore.
blah, 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 blah. Where did all the races go in here? Where did they all go? It says, well, those got the monsters. Blah, 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 blah. Am I missing them? Seriously? Did I do something wrong? Alright, let's see. Character races, 104. How am I missing this? There we go. I really want to see this real quick. So... Radiant Consumption, Fallen Asmar, Radiant Soul. For your transformation for 1 minute until you end. It's bonus action and flying speed. Deal extra radiant damage, and you deal damage with the spell. Damage is blah 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 blah. Okay. Actually, that's really cool. For somebody who's played so much Asmar, I'm only a DM typically, so I never really make use. I don't make use of that aspect of the character very often. It actually went from being damage on the Protector Asmar, which makes sense because a lot of people play Protector Asmars are probably healers. I mean, if you're going to be a damage Asmar, you're probably going to go with Scourge, right? Or Fallen Asmar. Whereas now, you actually do additional healing by the looks of it. So, Radiant Soul. Wait, what? Radiant Consumption. Did I not see extra healing? Speaking of blah blah blah, turns deal extra radiant damage to one target, deal damage with attack, spell damage to rolls. Am I just blind? I'm sorry, I'm the worst reviewer ever. Okay, so it stayed the same. I don't know what my mind was thinking. I completely lost it. You do not deal extra healing. But still, that'd be kind of cool if they did. I'm gonna gripe because I think it would be cool if being a Protector Asmar made you deal more healing. But that's because I like being a healer. And hello, Vicar. I just saw your message. I apologize. Bugbears, though. Humanoid. You're also considered goblinoid for the prerequisite effect that requires you to be a goblinoid. The guy I was listening to, whose name I can't remember right now, was talking about how that's interesting because there's no current items within the DMG or any published adventures, as far as he remembers, that require you to be a goblinoid. But the reason that's interesting is because he brings up a pretty good point that presumes that they might actually start doing that with a lot more races or race types. That you might have to be Fey, for example, in order to use something. Or Goblinoid in this case. Still medium. A lot of this is still the same. You have Dark Vision out to 60 feet. You're also considered Fey Ancestry. Long-limbed. Same thing. Powerful build. Same thing. Sneaky. Stays the same. Surprise attack. Same. Maybe it changed a bit. So Bugbear seems to have kept a decent amount, but they have changed up some of the stuff for like creature type. Centaur. As far as I don't know a ton about Centaur, and I do have the book that obviously it comes from a couple of the books that they're in, because I know they're in like Mythic Odysseys and the other MTG book. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to remember that. But they brought changelings in now. If you ever want to drive your your DM insane, pick a changeling. Okay. I don't remember changelings being considered Fey. Maybe I'm wrong. But you are, if I am not wrong, you are now considered Fey. Yeah, no, changelings are... I had to say that the balancing factor of a changeling, if you have that type of DM, which I'm sometimes tempted to be, is that most people don't trust changelings because it's a little disconcerting that a changeling can be anybody. It's typically a very scary prospect. So yeah, your shape changer still stays the same as far as I understand. Now brought deep gnomes in. This is where one of the first major changes that they're making really shows up. Your walking speed is now 30 feet, and they've done that for everyone under medium. You no longer have a 25-foot movement for anybody. It's all 30 feet. Still got your see and dim light to 120 feet. You no longer also have any playable races that have sunlight sensitivity. Once again, some people might see that as, oh, that's so stupid. That's the drawback to playing these races. It's such a hassle to have to constantly think about for even the player. Like, if it's something that you constantly have to hassle and think about, then just get rid of it. Like, why would you want something that you have to constantly remind yourself exists? It is also a detriment to the player. So I, for one, highly support that change. Because as a DM, you already have so much to think about. And your player probably wants to be thinking about not that they have disadvantage on all their attacks, but, what spell they're going to do next or what attack they're going to do next. It's stupid to have to constantly think about. Duergar, same thing. They used to have sunlight sensitivity. Duergar magic is gone through the same change that any magic, as far as I understand, it's gone through. That you can cast any spells from it with any spell slots you have. So if you're a class that normally doesn't say get invisibility, as far as I know, I can't remember if clerics in general get invisibility. So if you're a Duergar cleric, now you have access to invisibility. To be quite honest, I'm not familiar with Duergar in general, so I don't know if Dwarven Resilience and Psionic Fortitude have always been a thing, but I'm pretty sure Psionic Fortitude has, because of their relationship with the Oletherid, and the fact that a lot of Duergar, I think origin stories come from them being enslaved by the Oletherid. Or at least a great part of their history, so it does make sense. Eladrin, they've split up a lot of the elf, like, subraces and stuff. Next time you have a player ask for a challenge, tell them to play a Centaur. Yeah. Try and climb a ladder. Try and use a rope. Like, yeah, you have hands, but climbing has gotta be so much harder. And being so big as well. Being a centaur is a little annoying. But yeah, the Gith, yeah, I remember them being enslaved by the Oletherid as well. But I thought that was something, as far as I understand, I mean, the Oletherid never really discriminated on who they would enslave, and so I know that they have a lot of Duergar slaves. That is one thing they do, right? It seems, as far as I understand, the Eladrin haven't really changed. It's really just I think there's a change to how elves, like, they're no longer technically considered elf subraces, even though they kind of are. It seems that they've separated them more into their own thing. Because I don't think they're really even needed for subraces anymore, because the only thing you've really got out of elf subraces was like your the difference in your ability scores, and then obviously you have your actual abilities, but abilities don't mean anything. And so to have the elf's overtype, let's say, like the total, the overarching type as an elf, your additional stuff doesn't matter anymore, because I believe it was primarily just stats, and then the rest of it was your abilities. And so if you get rid of the whole stat requirement thing, you know, because you're an elf, you have extra dexterity, I believe it is. That's completely irrelevant now, right? Fairy, which is pretty interesting because they literally just published this recently. So we already have Fairy in this book. I thought I remember them. I guess, yeah, they are small. That's how they were the whole time. And obviously Fairy, they've changed nothing about Fairy. They've maintained, they had 30 feet, and they still have 30 feet. That was a change they made back in Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Furbolg. Oh, what's going on with the Furbolg? I think they're pretty much the same as well. They still got Hidden Step. I do believe they still don't have good old Dark Vision. So that's too bad for them, bub. Now moving on from my terrible Pumat Soul impression, we get to the Gennasi, which do have, as far as I remember, some pretty decent changes. So Air Gennasi, I believe all Gennasi now have, yeah, that's the big thing for all Gennasi, is they all have Dark Vision now. It's not just Fire Gennasi, I believe, which I'm pretty certain we're the only ones who had it. I believe that these have changed their little abilities, so they've got Mingle with the Wind. You know, the Shocking Grasp cantrip starting at 3rd level, you can cast the Featherfall spell with this trait. Starting at 5th, you also have Levitate. Once again, you can use your spell slots. Intelligent Wisdom or Charisma is your spellcasting ability, so you can choose which one you use. Just don't mind the message. Merge with Stone. And you also have Earthwalk. I can't remember if those things have changed, but I know that at the very least, Dark Vision has changed for all of them. Hey, thank you, Joe, for the raid. That's super sweet of you. With the raid of 5. Thank you so much. I hope some of you are D&D fans. If Ethan, Deathkill, you're in here, anybody else. Let's see who's all here. Who's all showed up. It's not showing yet. It's not updating. Well, hello to Joey. And I'm going to continue on because I want to make sure everybody who's come here still continues to get the content that they were here for. Merge with Stone. Let's see, what do you get? Blade Ward cantrip. You cast it as normal, and you can also cast it as a bonus action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, which is really nice. At least for one person. Blade Ward is actually useful now. At least for the Earth Gennasi, Blade Ward is actually useful because it's no longer an action. It is now a bonus action, which means that you can use it right away and do an attack, because it's just really that should be how the spell is, but I'm not going to gripe about that too much. Starting at 5th level, you can cast Pass Without a Trace spell with this trait without requiring components. Once again, anything that you can do based off of your... Hey, Xenos. Hey there, Josh. Glad to see you here. Wow, 10 people. I've never had this many people. All thanks to you, Joey. Thank you so much. Once again, you choose which of your spellcasting ability modifiers it's going to be. Obviously, none of them are going to be physical. Get into your Fire Gennasi. You have your Fire Resistance. Reach to the Blaze. You know the Produce Flame cantrip. That's still the same. Burning Hands. and you get Flame Blade. So I think that those are... my voice is cracking! Those are... Some of those spells are added. I don't remember them always being there. Yes, Ethan. Book. A D&D book. It's actually one of the newer books. Let's take a look at the front. These are gorgeous. I think everybody here missed my moment when I showed what they look like, because these are all special editions for the new gift set. So I'll give a quick re-review of how pretty these things are. That is a beholder for the uninitiated within the group. And then you've got Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. On the other side, you got a little excerpt there for saying, Mother once said, Natasha, my pumpkin, do you want to be a witch or a queen? I answered both, Mother, and it's Tasha. And then one of the cooler things for me as a DM is this gorgeous, gorgeous DM screen that I will show on my main camera. So if you look at the bottom left there, boom. It's a big old Dungeon Master screen with a whole bunch of cool stuff on it. Very beautiful. Looks like Doom. What kind of Doom? Like Dr. Doom or Doom as in Doom Eternal, Doom 2016, original Doom? Because I really do like me some Doom. We have the Githyanki here, by the way, Vicar. I know you're a really big fan of the Githyanki and the Githrizai. So they've made their appearance in this book. Yeah, I'm assuming you're talking about like Doom Guy and all that, which I love those games. Maybe one day I'll go back and stream a playthrough of it and get absolutely murdered. Get your medium, standard stuff, astral knowledge. So I know nothing about the Githyanki and the Githrizai, so I'll take a moment to look at them and see what they got here. Astral knowledge, you can mystically access a reservoir of experience of entities connected to the astral plane whenever you finish a long rest. Okay, yeah, I do know this one. You gain proficiency in a skill of your choice with one weapon or a tool of your choice, selected from the player's handbook as you momentarily project your consciousness into the astral plane. These proficiencies last until the end of your next long rest. So you just get to constantly choose new proficiencies and reset it and whatever is useful for you, kind of like a druid switching out their spells. Githyanki psionics, you know Mage Hand cantrip, which is invisible, so it's kind of like having a telekinetic ability that can only move like 5-pound objects. But still. Third level, you get the jump spell. Fifth, you can cast Misty Step. Standard changes that we've gone over already. You have resistance to psychic damage. If we see what's going on with the Githrizai, same thing here, starting off at the beginning. Githriel psionics, you know the Mage Hand cantrip once again. Instead, though, you cast the shield spell. And at 5th, you have Detect Thoughts. Mental Discipline, your innate psychic defense grants you advantage on saving throws you make to avoid or end the charmed and frightened conditions on yourself. And once again, you gain resistance to psychic damage. So there's some light differences between the Githyanki and the Githrizai, whereas it seems like the Githrizai are a little more defensive. And kind of like that read minds type thing, whereas... So it's almost like the Githrizai are the telepaths and the Githyanki are the telekinetic. You got goblins here. Once again, so there we go. You see 30 feet of movement speed rather than 25. Your creature type is humanoid, but you're also considered goblinoid for the prerequisite, once again. Fury the Small... I think might have changed. When you damage a creature with an attack or spell and the creature's size is larger than yours, you can cause an attack or spell to deal extra damage to the creature. The extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. Yes. You used to gain actual dice for that. And if I remember correctly, they were like D4s or D6s. This is a marked nerf to the goblin. Which is unfortunate for them. But it was also it was an extremely strong ability. If I were currently, like, if I had a goblin in my game right now, I would not make them change that in this game, because that would be, like, really rude. You don't... It's rude to nerf your characters in the middle of a game. You only nerf somebody in the middle of the game if it's absolutely necessary. Little Giant. You gain proficiency in athletics, and you count as one size larger. For the Goliath, Mountainborn and Stone's endurance stay the same. I think that has changed, though. You can use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. If I remember correctly, Stone's endurance was only it was like a one-time thing. So being able to use it equal to your proficiency bonus is actually really nice. Vicar, you're back now? You missed out on... I was reading this specifically for you, man. You're going to have to go back to the VOD now, because I'm not going to reread that, but they have to get Yankee and the Githrazai. That's your thing. So sorry, man. Missed out on your peeps. So I know you're all about the Spelljammer type races. But Harengon are amazing, and they haven't changed. To change them this early would be ridiculous. Why would they? They definitely had this already in plan, but I know very little about the story of the Gith, but Harengon are really cool. Where you get Hair Trigger, you add your proficiency bonus to your initiative roll. And then if you top that onto other like subclass abilities, you can end up with insane increases to your initiative rolls. You have automatic perception skill, lucky footwork, gives some bonuses to your dexterity saving throws. Can you use your reaction to roll a d4 and add it to the save, potentially turning a failure into a success. Can't use this reaction if you're prone or your speed is 0. Rabbit hop is a bonus action. You jump a number of feet equal to 5 times your proficiency bonus, so obviously you have a pretty good jump. Hobgoblins. Creature types, once again, the goblinoid situation. Speed is 30 feet. You have your dark vision. Blah, 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 blah. Fey gifts. I think that's new. You can use this trait to take the help action as a bonus action. You can do so a number of times equal to proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Starting at 3rd level, choose one of the options below each time you take the help action with this trait. Yeah, this is definitely new, and I already like it. It's kind of making me... This actually kind of makes me want to play a Hobgoblin already. Because I never thought they were that interesting. You and a creature you help each gain a number of temporary hit points equal to 1d6 plus your proficiency bonus for hospitality. Passage. You and a creature you help each increase your walking speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. Spite. Until the start of your next turn, the first time the creature you help hits a target with an attack roll, that target has disadvantage on the next attack roll it makes within the next minute. Okay. Fortune from the many. If you miss with an attack roll or fail an ability check, I do believe this is similar to something they had before. You can draw on your bonds of reciprocity to gain a bonus to the roll equal to your number of allies you can see within 30 feet. Yeah, this is somewhat the same. Obviously, it's a vague memory of what this is because I never really paid much attention to hobgoblins, but it is the origin of it is funnier than what that comes off as, because really what it is that hobgoblins have to save face. They are very proud. individuals. And when others are around, they don't want to make fools of themselves. So when there's more people around, they act. That's how they gain their bonus. It's not about fortune of the many. It's not about reciprocity. It's literally just about saving face. I don't want to look like an idiot. So, Kenku. There's a big change to the Kenku. I think that they're really going to be probably mostly just two camps on this. You're either going to love the change or you're going to effing hate it. Because they changed the most core aspect of role-playing them. Kenku no longer have the drawback of not being able to speak normally. They just have the ability to mimic. They still have the ability to accurately mimic. I, as a DM, actually like this because, honestly, and still people could play it the other way if they want to, really, but it is really hard to find people who RP Kenku that way properly. It is really difficult, and technically, if you're doing it accurately, you only remember those phrases for like 2 weeks. Yeah. And obviously, like, you could have changed it up before, like I said at the beginning of this video. Like, nothing is technically in stone. So if you have a DM and they're like, yeah, no, that whole Kenku not being able to speak thing is stupid, because this is literally, in the end, we're playing a game of imagination. So unless you're playing Adventurers League, none of that really mattered. But a lot of people like to follow rules as written as close as possible, and I'm one of those people. I usually prefer to pick pretty close to rules as written. So I'm glad that they changed that about the Kenku. They're able to copy writing perfectly. So they're really good at mimicking people. And that's why, honestly, Kenku Warlocks are probably pretty broken for deception and really getting in places. And I really should play that out a bit. That, you know, there might be some Kenku Warlocks out there with, like, Mask of Many Faces who are just going on for years having taken somebody else's position. But kobolds, as far as I know, also have gone through some interesting changes. And kobolds are amazing. I love kobolds. Kobolds are the greatest. They're amazing. Nobody knows kobolds better than me, except they probably do, because I've never actually played one, but I think they're really interesting. Once again, 30 feet of movement. You gain your dark vision. Kobold Legacy. So let's see what that's about in just a second. Draconic Cry is a bonus action. You let out a cry as your enemies within 10 feet of you until the start of next turn. Eyes have advantage on attack rolls against any of those creatures. You can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So they've taken away the ability when you are within like 5 feet of an ally, you gain advantage on it. I can't remember the name of the ability, but it's gone. And they've replaced it with Draconic Cry, which, so you still kind of have it, but you only have it up to a number of times, rather than it being a constant ability. Kobold Legacy, connection to the dragons, legacy for your kobold, craftiness. Yeah, pack tactics, you're right. Yeah, they no longer have pack tactics. No longer a constant advantage for anybody within 5 feet of you. Craftiness, you have the proficiency bonus of one of the following skills of your choice: Arcana, Investigation, Medicine, Sleight of Hand, or Survival. Defiance, you have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the frightened condition on yourself. Or Draconic Sorcery, you know one cantrip of your choice from the Sorcerer's spell list. Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma is your spellcasting ability for that cantrip. Choose this when you select this race. Can manifest in individual kobolds. Choose one of the following legacy options for your kobold. Okay. Yeah, so this is... I think any one of these, you pick these when you begin and you get one of them. It's almost kind of like how they did with the Aasimar. Lizard folk. I don't think lizard folk have changed much, and if they have, I wouldn't know what changed because I never paid a whole bunch of attention to them. But if you want to take a look at them, once again, you got the bot here. You're always free feel free to go back. Although my big old face, I'm going to change that real quick, because I'm going to feel bad for anybody who comes to the VOD and can't see what's going on in the bottom left-hand corner. So, because all this is going to be taking place in the bottom corners. So, that's switched over. I think they have removed some of the things about, like, inbuilt personality trait type stuff, because I know that lizard folk are often considered like these almost mindless, not mindless, but they lack empathy completely. You know, they're literally reptilian in nature, like a snake. Well, let's see. Hungry Jaws. You can show yourself into the frenzy. As a bonus action, you can make a special attack with your bite. Deals normal damage, temporary, blah, 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 blah. Nature's armor, nature's intuition, hold breath, and bite. Yeah, it looks like lizard poking around, blah, 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 blah. Material planes is the world's creation. Just with its situation in the deadly for the folk because of its fact. Many lizard folk myths state that their people were placed by the gods in Untitled plane to guard its natural wonders. Yeah, it seems that they've kind of been going for more lore that feels like it has connections that can be heroic. So yeah, it looks like they have some vague references with hungry jaws to them eating people, but that's very vague. So I would agree. They have been sanitizing a lot of the content. I don't think Minotaur had changed much. Labyrinthine Recall has always been there. Hammering Horns. Immediately after you hit a creature with a melee attack, as part of the attack action you turn, bonus action, attempt to put a target with your horns. The target must be within 5 feet of you, no more than one size larger than you, unless it succeeds on a strength saving throw. I just recently reviewed the Tal'Dorei Campaign Guide Reborn, and this would go great with the Barbarian subclass in there, because now you have just more rush in, knock people over, push people away, just really disrupt the flow of combat. A Minotaur with I think it's the Juggernaut subclass would just be absolutely ridiculous and a load of fun to do. So, Orc, I like that they used art for the Orc that looks like a really cool wizard, rather than it being the typical Orc warrior. And the idea of playing an Orc wizard sounds really appealing to me. Like, the moment I saw this art, I'm like, actually, Orc wizard sounds cool. I would like to do that. Let's see if they made any changes. You still have Adrenaline Rush. Number of times equal to your proficiency. I think that's changed to, I think it was only once, like every short or long rest, something like that. But now you have it up to your proficiency bonus. Whenever you use this trait, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus. I think that's changed. I don't remember there being the temporary hit points. Relentless Endurance has always been there. Satyrs. I love Satyrs. Your medium, 35 feet of movement. Ram is still the same. Magic resistance, mirthful leaps. Reveler, yep, that's all still the same. So yeah, nothing's changed about the Satyr. Wow, okay. Everything's slowing down again. Yeah, nothing's changed there. Sea Elves. Once again, we got two different types of elves here. We've completely divorced the idea of there being sub-races within elves, because once again it was completely redundant at this point with the changes that they've made. My guess is that they probably have some spells, if they changed anything about them. Dark Vision, Fey, Ancestry, Friends of the Sea. Aquatic animals have an extraordinary affinity for your people. So you're basically Aquaman. You have proficiency with perception skill and trance, which is innate for all elves. Shatterkai, I think this is something that's changed about them. Can teleport up to 30 feet in occupied space. Use this trait a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. It's not a teleport spell, it's just literally a teleport ability. Which is actually a little more powerful, because if you do have a situation where you have an enemy who has, say, like counterspell, they can't counterspell that. You gain resistance to all damage when you teleport at 3rd level using this trait. That is really cool. There's a lot of edgy people who are going to be playing Shatterkai, I feel like, soon. So I'll probably be hearing some horror stories about the katana wielding edgelord with their Shatterkai as they go into their ghostly form and have resistance. And they have necrotic resistance just naturally. The trance is still there. Shifters, which come from Eberron campaign setting. I don't believe they've changed at all. I think shifters are kind of cool. They're an interesting race, or I don't know, what do they call it now? Ancestry. It's now called Ancestries because, you know, our language changes over the years, I guess. I don't think anything has changed about the Tabaxi as far as I can tell. Your reflexes agility allow you to move with a burst of speed. When you move on your turn in combat, you can double your speed until the end of your turn. Once you use this trait, you can't use it again until you move 0 feet on one of your turns. I think that's changed. I think feline agility is slightly different. I think that I'm not going to go ahead and pull the book out despite the fact that it's near me. But I do believe that's the one thing that's changed about them. They brought Tortles in here. There is actually no book that had Tortles in it, which is really nice that it's now in an actual 5e book. Because as far as I remember, Tortles came from the Tortle package, which you can find on like DM's Guild and D&D Beyond, but you couldn't get it in a book. I really don't know if anything's changed about them either, but it is nice to see them here. Do like the representation. I'm assuming their speed must have changed. I think. You can either choose to be medium or small. That's cool. Control, air, and water. Once again, I think they changed quite a few things where they have the spells now. You have some innate spells again. Really kind of setting a standard for how these kind of things work. Get water walk. Once again, you choose which type of modifier you use for it, but that's permanent once you choose it. As my assumption. Can communicate simple ideas with beasts, elemental, or monstrosities that have swimming speed. Guardian of the Depths, resistance to cold. Makes sense. And now we go on to the last of our races in here, and then we'll go through a quick look at what's going on with the monsters here, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that, because I don't think most people here want to spend, you know, the next 10 videos worth of content going over every monster. So, Yanti traits. You are medium humanoid. You can choose between medium or small. Walking speed will stay 30. Dark vision is, I believe, the same. Magic resistance, advantage on saving throws against spells. Poison resilience, serpentine casting, or spell casting. So you have animal friendship and suggestion as innate spells that once again follow that same kind of standard that they've really put in place for any racial spell abilities, and they seem to always get at least 2. I think 2 is as much as you get. So going to the Bestiary real quick as we skim through this chapter, A lot of the changes, I'm going to see if I could find some examples here. So probably the Alahoon will work. Because now they have spell-like abilities. They no longer, I mean, they still have spells, so they have spell casting, but they're going to have primary spell attacks that no longer work like a spell. And they cannot, as much as I know some people really don't like this, they obviously can no longer be counterspelled. Which, for the lower end monsters, I guess, I mean, you're looking at Alahoon as a CR10, and you've got, Arcane Bolt, which is pretty hefty. I mean, that's 8d6 force damage. That is literally a fireball's worth of force damage. And they can do that every round. Chilling Grasp is 46. So you can either do 2 Chilling Grasp, 2 Arcane Blast, or 1 of each. You have a Mind Blast on a recharge like a Dragon's Breath. So it's actually a lot like a Dragon Breath attack. That's 48 plus 4 psychic damage and stunned for 1 minute. That's very strong and it's very thematic. Notice up here it says typically neutral evil. I know that Vicar, you're not a big fan of how they've been changing up a lot of stuff with the Oletherid. They still have some suggestions about them. I guess that's really also because this one's undead. We'll see what they do with the rest. But you'll notice that this is a pretty common thing where a lot of these creatures, it seems, have gotten new abilities and then removed a decent amount of their spells. Whereas the spells that they probably typically have, if we go back to the Alahoon, what do they have? Dancing Lights, Detect Magic, Detect Thoughts, Disguise Self, Mage Hand, Prestidigitation, Dominate Person, Globe of Invulnerability, Invisibility, Modify Memory, Plane Shift, and Wall of Force. So I'm willing to bet that the general situation here, with most spellcasters at least, is that the most, if not all, of their spells are going to be utility based. So they're always going to be able to be they're never wasting spell slots anymore on their attacks. So there's definitely an increase in power with the enemies, but you can tell that there's a lot of buffs to the player races. So there's been an increase in both, which some people are like, well, why would you do that? What's the point? You know, you're saying monsters aren't very powerful and that you need to buff them, and then you go buff the player races at the same time, right? Like, okay. I mean, but we'll see in the end what the balance comes out to. Ultimately, I still think it is a good change because it's simplified things. You don't want this massive list of spells because it becomes just this hassle to memorize. So it helps out new DMs a lot. So we're going to just start flipping through here. I'll stop on anything that seems really interesting. There's some decent art in here. I think some of this is new. You got your Archdruid and your Archer. Astral Dreadnought's not changed. That's always looked the same. Bale. This is an interesting looking fiend. Demon. Bale is a pretty high level. CR19. You got good old Baphomet. Some interesting, you got bards in here, so you have a lot of stat blocks for NPCs that you can throw in. What's a little frustrating about all this, I will add, is that if you're on Roll20 or something like that, for one, as far as I know, none of this is available on DMs or D&D Beyond or on Roll20 until May, and then it's not in the SRD, and so you don't get these new and improved stat blocks on any of those platforms without buying the book. Whereas on Roll20, you automatically, so if I go to Barghest, because Barghest is in the Monsters Manual, I can pull a Barghest onto the map as long as it's part of the Monsters Manual. But if I'm assuming they must have done some changes to the Barghest. If they haven't, whoop-de-doo, I've never used one. Not that I wouldn't want to, but still. If they have, I don't have automatic access to those changes. I actually have to sit there and go in and input it, which I'm used to doing. And I do it a lot for, the new books. When I see something, really interesting and I want it, I take it. But for a lot of people, that is going to be a little annoying that they're no longer... these changes are not in the SRD. This, I think, looks cool. I already... This is such a cool looking enemy. I want to use this so bad. Edgy... When you're a DM, having edgy enemies is just fun. And they just look intimidating as all heck. They got that 18 AC with 119 HP. They're basically like Death Knights, but not undead. Boggles and Bodax, their art has not changed. Death Claws are pretty intimidating looking. Cadaver Collector. Caneloth. They actually have cattle in here now. Ox, Stench Cow, Cave Fisher is actually a creature. Champion art hasn't changed. They really advertise this on quite a bit of art changes, and they do have them. Don't get me wrong, they have quite a few art changes in here, but quite a few they don't. And I might have liked to have seen that. Especially considering this comes out as like a special edition that costs $150 to pick up. That might have been nice to have a bit more of that, but this is still this is incredible amount of information in here, and stat block changes that I will love to just sit through and figure out what's going to torture all of you in my groups the most. Demigorgon, which actually shows up in Stranger Things, for those of you who may not be super familiar with D&D, but are familiar with Stranger Things. There he is in all his horrific glory with his 22 AC and his challenge rating of 26, which is a really high challenge rating. He's got a whole lot of crazy stuff going on here, and I'm sure that he's even stronger than he used to be. Devourers are just horrifying, and I threw this at my group in a Curse of Strahd game. Things could have gotten bad with this creature. Let's see, we got some dinosaurs here. Got dolphins, Dolphin Delighter, which is considered a Fey type, which is kind of cool. Considered chaotic good, so anybody kills that, clearly horrible people. It seems that a lot of the drow are still being suggested as... Okay. Apparently there's still any... So they changed those to any alignment, but the drow arachnomancer, what's up with these people? Why are they considered typically chaotic evil? Whereas opposed to the rest of the drow are not. Drow spellcasters who seek to devote themselves wholly to Lolth. Well, that would make sense. The Spider Queen sometimes walk the sinister path of the Arachnomancer by offering up body and soul to Lolth. They gain tremendous power and supernatural connection to the ancient spiders of the demon-wed pits, channeling magic from the Dread Place. Or that Dread Place. Okay, that makes sense. But yeah, they've gotten rid of a lot of the suggested alignments here, but they do have typically neutral evil for Drow Inquisitor. What about the Mother Matrons? Typically neutral evil. Okay. Shadowblades are... So it seems like a lot of the higher up type people are often... Which would make sense, I guess, because if you're higher up in Drow society, it's because you've backstabbed a lot of people. I don't know. I haven't really read among the Drow follower. Let's see. Let's go to... What do they say about, like, Drow House Captain? Drow House Captain leads the troops of the Underdark factions, whether defending blah 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 blah. Lulz devotees. So Baranzan, Forgotten Realms. Each noble house entrusts the leadership of its military forces to a house captain. I mean, they don't have a ton of lore in here in the first place, which is why I don't know if I can fully follow the WotC deletes lore setup here, because they're not disseminating a lot of lore in here, to be completely honest. It's very lore bare, which can be seen as a bad thing, really. I mean, it can be seen as like, we would like to see more information, but they really went mostly with the creatures, and then what is it, that is specific about that creature. Whereas, like, they don't really talk a whole lot about the political or socioeconomic situations or lore about them as a race, as a group of people, or an ethnicity, or whatever. They do kind of go into the darker aspects, I'm assuming, with like the matron mothers and the inquisitors and stuff like that, but not into great detail. But yeah, this is definitely very lore light. I know there has been a push for genericizing a lot of groups within D&D. I think that they haven't. I think the way they've done it hasn't been bad necessarily, but I do get the ethos of the frustration about it. But you look. I don't know. Have you read the Drizzt series? Because I've listened to about 6 or 7. Actually, it might have been up to 9 of the Drizzt books at this point. And the Drow are actually, and you look into the lore, are technically more diverse than you often find out within, say, like the lore of 2E or First Edition or wherever they came in. More than you really presume. Because, I mean, obviously everyone knows Drizzt would be a good line character. But then you have, say, like, his mentor and father, Zaknafane de Werden, who was probably seemed to be a good lineman. There's definitely some debate as to something's going on with, like, his I mean, he was the youngest, but his youngest sister, who I believe was the one who was basically forced to raise him, there was some kind of tragic bits about her character in the sense that she was probably very much like him. And that it was more or less the society that Lulth built that really pushed them to be who they were. And you can kind of see it as like almost a Nazi Germany situation where a lot of people in Nazi Germany we might consider evil. But, you look at, like, Police Battalion 101, they were not, like, you look at them, they were normal people. Yet they were ended up doing terrible things. And so that might just be, that seems like the lore situation with a lot of the Drow, is that they're just in a society that's built that way. I mean, how do you react when that's just everything you have? They're literally, they are indoctrinated from the day they're born, basically. So I don't know if it's really that drastic of a change from what it's always been. I mean, I'm sitting here playing devil's advocate because I've definitely complained a bit about what they've done lore-wise, and I'm not a big fan of the we're going to change things because some people on Twitter got upset about it. The whole orc thing about, like, alignment and them being typically evil actually started out as a joke. It was a Reddit joke, and then somebody took it seriously, and then it became a thing. It's kind of ridiculous. It's the uncanny valley, really. But what do you do? And I do like me some good orcs. I mean, I grew up with Warcraft 3, And that was, you know, the big thing in Warcraft 3 is that they completely changed the perception of the orc with Thrall. And Thrall being this very good, benevolent individual, and then you find out about his parents and how his parents were good, and they didn't like the fact that this war was going on. They're like, we're basically raping and pillaging the resources of these worlds, and this is unsustainable. And it turns out that Gul'dan's been, you know, leading them along the whole time. Yeah, orcs are evil in Tolkien's, but is that necessarily the... Is it... I guess in the end you have to ask yourself, is it necessary to stick to that? I don't know. Ultimately, like, the way I run my games is you guys generally end up finding out when they're enemies that you may as well just kill and not feel bad about killing. And then there's the ones that I might make a little more complicated. I kind of just figured it out myself. I mean, you were in an orc town, and then they were attacked by a band of crazy orcs who follow Grumsh. Like, yeah, these are bad people. You know, go and kill the Grumsh followers because they're basically insane religious zealots. I'm going to try and get through a bit more of this as quickly as possible. They have some stuff here on the Gith. Got some Gnolls here. They've got stat block on Gratz. They got the Grungs in here, which I would have loved to have seen Grung stat blocks in here. Please give my Grungs some love, WotC. I love Grungs. People with anger issues, yeah. Trying to see if there's just any cool art at this point. Kieran's art stayed the same. Still got a lot of the same for the kobolds. Kraken Priest. Leviathan. I like these stat blocks here. These are some cool enemies that I'd like to throw at you guys one day. Martial Arts Adept. Marut. Master Thief. That looks like it's a new piece of art right there for a Master Thief. CR5 makes sense. It's the person you send at your group to steal all their shit. Make them very upset. They got some stat blocks in here that I don't believe... I don't remember... Maybe the Maragon were in DMG, but I don't remember. I know they show up in Descent into Avernus. They're a little weird. I don't remember ever seeing a Marinoloth. That's interesting. Moloch, who is an entity that seems to have been around since the inception of the game. I mean, I'm looking up and I see my first edition Advanced D&D Player's Handbook, and there that is. That literal art right there from first edition. Yeah, no, I mean, I literally... I guess I may as well show it. I should probably stand up so I don't ruin the book. But, yeah. Original Player's Handbook right there, same art. If anybody thinks that I'm going to take the time to learn first edition AD&D anytime soon, probably insane. But maybe one day, if I've gone full insane, I'll learn AD&D. Maybe it'll happen. That's new to me. Melidius. Mouth of Grolantor, I believe. They've definitely consolidated from a few books. I sent a version of an Narzugon at you guys one time. First edition is easier than 5e in many ways. I don't know. I haven't spent much time learning it. I have sort of been looking into Pathfinder a little bit, just because I've been slightly interested in getting an idea as to how Pathfinder works, and I went ahead and made sure that I saved them in a place that was easy and quick for me to access. OSR movement, all about simplicity. Huh. Yeah, I think simplicity up to a point. 2E Pathfinder. I've been looking into 2E Pathfinder because it's on the drive you gave me. So I briefly took a look at that and the OSR RPG. I think you sent me some of that. I thought you did. Oinaloth. So there's definitely some beings in here I don't remember ever seeing. A lot of the Loths. Orthon. Don't remember the Orthon. I love the Quickling in the Dnd Book. I think a Quickling is pretty interesting. And I might do an exercise in this book sometime where I create a mini adventure, and I'm going to do what Chris Perkins does when he creates little adventures. He goes to the DMG and he picks out two creatures that you might not think would work together, and then kind of creates an adventure based off of what would be the situation with these two creatures. So if we, like in the Dnd Book, it was a Quickling and a Barghest working together, which is interesting. Like, I don't know, one of the Shatterkai. So let's see, we'll think, what would be an interesting individual to have working with a Shatterkai? I'll keep my finger on there. Let's see if we come up with anything else, and maybe we'll theory craft a little bit. I want it to be slightly different than what you would think. I mean, like an ooze, that ooze would be kind of interesting. So we've got a lot of undead here that I've seen before. I have actually seen the Losorosorn. I'm aware of the spawn of Caius, which are just absolutely... I feel like these are more classic zombie horror than a lot of the zombies. They're just terrifying. Got some star spawn here. Star spawn Larva Magi or Magi. Star spawn Seer. Stone Cursed Steel Predator. It'd be kind of cool. I mean, it's somewhat thematic looking to have a Shatterkai, say, with like a Steel Predator as a boss. That would be interesting. I mean, what's CR16? Dear Lord. And what are the CRs on the Shatterkai here? I mean, the CR9 Shatterkai Gloomweaver. That's... Do they have any more? Shatterkai Soulmonger. So that looks like... Is that a spellcaster of some sort? Doesn't seem like it. Seems more like a... Yeah, they're a sneaky stabby, which I kind of guess makes sense. And Steel Predator, do they have stealth? They do. That would be a pretty nasty combination, really. Steel Predator with the Shatterkai. This sort of an assassin situation. Or maybe like what would go along with a Storm Giant Quintessent. Maybe there's like some a-hole whispering in their ear making them do terrible things, because Quintessents are generally... Yeah, they're chaotic good. Thank you, says Josh. Yeah, you would say that. This is... I like this. This art's really cool. This is definitely new art. I don't know where this came from, but the Sword Wraith Commander and the Sword Wraith Warrior, those are cool. And I want to run another Curse of Strahd game at some point. I've been slowly building a Curse of Strahd campaign that's far more expansive, has more quests that I pulled from multiple books, new monsters, stuff from other third-party groups that I want to throw in there. It's just a personal pet project that eventually I will get through. Let's see. We're almost towards the end here. Got some stuff on trolls. Some trolls I don't remember seeing. A spirit troll sounds intimidating. As though trolls needed to be any worse. Incorporeal movement. Wow. Yeah. Okay. That is terrifying. Having a spirit troll after you? No, no, thank you. Oh God. As though trolls weren't hard enough to deal with. You got an Oletherid, which are the sorcerer Olethids. It's only a CR9? I thought these guys were supposed to be higher CR because they were sorcerers. Once again, it seems that they don't have any spells in their spellcasting situation here that deal damage. But they have actions, tentacles, extract brain, mind blast. Huh. It's a 10-foot reach. Okay, they do have really long... That's interesting. It seems that, like, if I were to play an Oletherid, it would almost be a situation where they want to, like, catch somebody out and just, like, stun them and then pull them away and just devour them. I was a little upset that they didn't have anything for the vampire. They have Vampire Mist, and I went through this the first time and, like, oh man, I want to see some changes to the vampire because maybe there's some good information in here that would help switch up how, say, like, Strahda's ran. Like, I might add that into Strahd's situation. Nah, nothing for the vampire. I was a little disappointed, to say the least. Although, there might be some stuff that I was missing from the Van Richting's Guide to Ravenloft. That might be in there that I just didn't notice. War Priest definitely got an update on their art, and I love the Saloon reference. I'm all praise be to Saloon. Love me some Saloon. So the War Priest has changed up a bit. Warlord looks interesting. Warlock of the Great Old One. I know that showed up in another book. But the Warlord looks interesting to me. That's just a really cool stat block by the looks of it. You got some stuff here on the wizard types, which all have a lot of new art. Illusionist Wizard. Kind of looks like something out of Strixhaven to me. That actually looks a lot like that's art out of Strixhaven. Or the person who did this art probably did the art for Strixhaven. These are all creatures. These are just stat blocks. I went over all the... if I quickly pull back here. These are all the races and stuff. So they made some changes to the races. You might have showed up as I was finishing up with them, I think, because you had showed up during Joe's raid. There's a lot of changes here. But this is basically, I mean, you look at that. That's literally everything for races. And then the rest of the book is all stat blocks. Anything really cool for, like, race changes? I like that they got rid of sunlight sensitivity. I like that they standardized the speed for all races to be no lower than 30. You still have some that have, like, 35 and above. But you don't have the small races being, you know, hurt by the fact that they have a 25-foot movement speed, which I really, really like. Those are some of the big changes I like. I like that they made a lot of different updates to how innate spells work with the new race changes, where you basically you get 2 spells, one at 3rd level, one at 5th level. You can use them up to, I think, your proficiency bonus number of times. And then you can actually use them as an inbuilt spell. So I think that's all really nice. I think we're almost done here. We got Zariel. And I think this is cool. And I really like this creature, which is typically neutral, but it'd be fun to find a reason as to why a group would have to fight a Zaratan. you talking about? Yantu Anthelum or whatever. Trying to figure out what you're talking about. Ah, Yanti and Anathema. That's what you're talking about. CR12. As a part of their quest for godhood, a Yanti abomination might perform a ritual that is that, if successful, transforms them into an even greater form of Yanti Anathema. This ritual demands the sacrifice of hundreds of snakes and requires the abomination to bathe in the blood of their enemies. The transformation is quick but painful. Anathema considers themselves demigods on the path to greater divinity. They demand obseescence from weaker creatures. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Those stats. 189 HP. Multi-attack. They make 2 claw attacks and 1 flurry of bite attacks. 66 piercing plus 46 poison. Yeah, that's from flurry of bites is pretty nice. 2d6 slashing is meager for a claw attack, in my opinion. Constrict, though, is nice. You're going to get a constrict. So basically, if I were DMing this fight with this entity, I would first constrict you, and then take that advantage on my attacks to try and get a crit with a flurry of bites. And then the claws would kind of just be an added bonus to that. And then they do have some spell casting, which they have blind sight. Okay, that is pretty intimidating. If you're in a bad area for this fight, they can cast darkness, and then they have blind sight in that area. Yeah, their stats are pretty high, but I mean, I've seen worse. I've seen much worse than that. Yanti Anathema, definitely, like, that's nothing to be how would I put it? You definitely don't want to underestimate it. It's definitely, like, a CR12 is not a pushover. Definitely has some pretty crazy abilities and would be fun to run, but definitely not the craziest thing I've ever seen. But I mean, if we look over here at, say, like Zariel, I mean, look at this guy right here. You're talking about stats. Look at that. This guy's got 30 strength. I mean, he's 10 dex, whatever, but 30 constitution. He's low on all of his mental scores. But yeah, I mean, that thing's got 307 HP with a 21 natural armor. These things are basically built to destroy objects. They're walking earthquake machines is what these guys are. Zariel, on the other hand, let's take a look at her. CR26 with 27 strength, 24 dex, 28 constitution, 26 intellect, 27 wisdom, and a 30 charisma. That is an intimidating stat block. She's got 420. Oh yeah, got a 420 over here for Zariel. And let's see what she's got. I think she's changed up a little bit. She's got a multi-attack. She makes 3 flail or longsword attacks. Does 2d10 plus 8 radiant damage when used with both hands, plus 36 8d8 fire damage. Huh. Zariel, on a recharge 5 to 6, touches one creature within 10 feet of her. The target must succeed on a DC 26 Constitution saving throw, or take 44 8d10 necrotic damage and be poisoned for 1 minute. While poisoned this way, the target is blinded and deafened. Target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. Yeah, 26 challenge rating. I mean, she's the not demon. She's a devil lord of the first layer of the 9 hells. So yeah, she's definitely going to be a challenge. I've seen some stat blocks people have made for Asmodeus. Asmodeus is, and to be honest, the stat blocks people make for Asmodeus are actually not as strong as Asmodeus is, because you're actually looking at a false avatar of Asmodeus. Like, the actual Asmodeus is a prime entity of the very workings of the universe, is essentially what he is. Like, there's no way anybody is actually beating Asmodeus. It's like, if you're going against the real Asmo, you're done. Just pack up your bags, just bow before your lord, and expect to die. Or be used for some nefarious plan, if he even cares to look at you. But that is everything. They go by challenge ratings, stat blocks by environment, so they have some random generators in here. But that actually brings us to everything. An hour and a half is not bad to get through the whole thing. Gorgeous, gorgeous book. Gorgeous, gorgeous set. I love the changes that they made for most of the playable races. I think that it was much needed, because most of everything that they changed were literally just things that I felt like made no sense in the first place, because they were just a hassle. Once again, if the things that you have in your setup, or your class abilities or detriments, are just a hassle to deal with, then just get rid of them, because nobody actually wants to deal with them. So it just makes sense. So I'm going to pack this up as we finish up for the evening. I think I'd like to do that little practice of creating, like, say, a boss creature for maybe a one-shot, using monsters of the multiverse as the inspiration, as I go through and pick like 2 or 3 creatures out of there to kind of pair them up and do that Chris Perkins style of creating a boss encounter, or it's just story arc character. But this is where we're going to call it for tonight. Thank you, everybody who showed up. Thank you to anybody who... I see that Ethan's still in here. Joe, you're still in here. Thank you all for sticking around and upping my viewership and chatting. If any of you don't play D&D, I hope that this was an interesting introduction into the games, like slightly into its mechanics. You can always look up Critical Role, which is actually running a live stream right now, which is a guest battle royale. I'm probably going to switch over to that in a moment. So, yep, same to you, Vicar Chow. Then I guess that's actually where I'm just going to call it right now. You all have a wonderful evening. Love you all, and good night. Peace.